emergency live stream for On the Pen members and subscribers. Huge news. Zepbound is no longer in shortage. MOUNJARO is no longer in shortage per the FDA website. We got an update today from the FDA, and essentially what we see here is we've got a update that tells us that all of the dosages of all of the versions of Zepbound and MOUNJARO are completely off FDA shortage. Now, of course, we know this to slap in the face of the reality on the ground. Put shortage in the chat if you're dealing with shortages yourself. But we were warned yesterday, we did a video on this, we were warned by Dave Ricks that they were planning to, and these are his words, exit that program. And so not real sure what that means. It was a very cryptic sort of statement, I thought, much different than saying all dosages will be reported as available tomorrow. That's totally different than we will exit that program. Now, the implications to all of these medications being off shortage has major implications as it relates to compounded medications. And I want to just get into sort of what happens next, because I think sort of the fear right away is that compounded versions of Tirzepatide are going to just go away overnight. That's definitely not the case. There are several things that have to happen. Trish is having a hard time finding the 10 and the 5 in Fayetteville, North Carolina, which is interesting because you're right in the backyard of Novo Nordisk's Triangle Park. Eli Lilly's Triangle Park, their expansions out there. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about what happens next, right? So just because the dosages were shown to be available does not mean that it is immediately off the FDA shortage list. There's sort of a master list when you search drugs that are in shortage that shows what medications are currently in shortage. And just that the fact that Eli Lilly is showing those all as available does not actually remove Tirzepatide, Zepbound, and MOUNJARO from the FDA shortage list. It just shows that those dosages are currently available. Now, it could remain that way, and we could just see this cycle through. We've seen it before. We've seen it with MOUNJARO, where all doses became available, sat there for like a month like that, and then the next month it was updated to show that 5 milligram was back in shortage. We may see that pattern. But because of the language that was used, it does make me wonder, and because of the language that was used, and because of the fact that we know that there are shortages, there just are shortages. People are experiencing them all over the place. Of course, Lilly, when they report, they're reporting on their ability to supply distributors, where obviously when we get to that down to the pharmacy level, we're a couple positions removed from the actual beginning of the supply chain. But let's talk about what happens if it were to go off shortage completely. The first thing is the FDA would have to determine that the medication is indeed off shortage, that the drug manufacturers do have the ability to make those doses as they've reported. So it remains, even though the dosages are showing us all available, that's the 2.5 all the way down to the 15 milligram for both Zepbound and MOUNJARO are showing as all available, they still have to take the master list of Tirzepatide off the shortage list. So it still remains on shortage even though they're available. A couple questions to answer real quick. Teresa wants to know how this data aligns with Roe. I haven't spoken to anybody at Roe about that, but last time we talked to Z, which was just a few weeks ago, he was letting us know that there still were a tremendous amount of dosages that were being reported as in shortage, and the Roe tracker does report back to the FDA on those shortages. So that is one way that you can report your own personal shortages. We'd like to true up Eli Lilly's version of the story with our own story on the ground. You can do that by either using the Roe supply tracker tool, which I'll link in the description of this video, or you can just go to the FDA website. I'll link that as well, and you can do it directly there. Either way, the Roe tracker tool is a great way to sort of crowdsource supply, though. So the FDA will decide whether or not this ultimately goes off of the shortage list, right? But let's play this out and say that they do, and let's talk about what happens to compounds, because I know that's what everybody's question is. So I'm going to source an article. This was provided from our producer of our podcast, Clark Kent. This is an article from the Pharmacy Times. I will go back and link this in the description of the video below also. Hey, make sure you hit that like, hit that bell, and hit that sub if you're here for the first time, but definitely hit that thumbs up so we can get this great and helpful information out there. If you find this video helpful, please hit that like button. And as everybody's saying, release the vials, no matter what. So let's just play this out real quick. So from Pharmacy Times, this is back in 2023, I believe around April. Once these drugs come off the shortage list officially, and I'm going to quote, there's a 60-day grace period for compounding where the FDA has indicated it will exercise enforcement discretion. However, that grace period is only applicable to 503B facilities where large orders may be in process when the drug is taken off the shortage list. There is no such grace period language for 503A pharmacies. Now, I believe a lot of the 503A pharmacies are operating under an umbrella of a 503B pharmacy, so there's going to be some gray area here. One thing that we have to know about this is we're sort of in uncharted territory and unprecedented times when it comes to the way that the 503B and 503A pharmacies have been used for GLP-1 specifically, right? There's never been a drug that has been in this demand and is in this much of a shortage. And so you see really the maximum capacity of these 503B pharmacies has been used to make compounded GLP-1s. And so it will be very interesting to see how that goes. But there is a 60-day grace period for 503B pharmacies to continue once the FDA allows that drug to come off the master shortage list, which as of right now, it is not. All doses are showing as available, but Tirzepatide, Zepbound, MOUNJARO still shows as on the master list as currently in shortage. So 60-day grace period once that may or may not happen. There will be 60 days to sort of figure out your contingency plan. Now, of course, a lot of people, because you're very smart in this community, have pointed out some great points. The first thing being that once they end compounding, or if they were successful in doing that, their drug is going to go right back on the shortage list. There are hundreds of thousands of people on compounds now. A huge percentage of people who are on GLP-1s are on compounded versions of GLP-1s. So that is one thing to consider. But that 60-day grace period for the 503Bs really does give a cushion to maintain some level of accessibility towards these GLP-1s. Another possible scenario here is, there was a great article in Fortune magazine today. I'm not sure if you saw it. I'll link this in the description as well. But it was an interview with me and an interview with Dave Ricks, CEO of Eli Lilly. Now, these were not done together, but they interviewed me about the supply, about the challenges that our community is facing. Hit that like button if you're just joining us. Hit that subscribe button if you're new here. But it was basically getting sort of the community perspective on the shortages. And then Dave Ricks, the CEO of Eli Lilly, sort of responded and mentioned that, it's sort of unprecedented times with patients educating themselves, and he embraced it. And he said that he is aware of the Release the Vials campaign, and it is an option that they are considering. That's a direct quote from the Fortune article that just dropped today. So huge shout out to Erica with Fortune magazine for doing this awesome piece that highlights the community perspective. Again, of course, it's all started with sort of Madison Muller and her willingness to highlight the work that we're doing. But thank you to those in the media who are seeing what we're doing here at On the Pen and recognizing this community for the power that it has. That said, it could be that they're about to flood the market with single dose vials, and that could be the end of the shortages. But for now, I don't think that's the likely answer. But there's always hope, right? And we do have an earnings call coming up for Eli Lilly next week, which of course we'll cover very, very closely on this channel. That's why you need to make sure you hit that subscribe button and make sure that you get all the updates, because we are your breaking news source. You're gonna get it here first all the time. And so make sure that you subscribe, hit that bell notification so that you get notified when we update. Some of the questions here, links, I'll go back and provide the links to everything that we talked about in the description of this video. Is the shortage in the medicine or the pens? The shortage is definitely in the pens. We've heard that from Eli Lilly. Another thing that makes me very, very skeptical about the shortage ending is that we were told in the last earnings call that actually the shortages won't end until likely 2026 when orforglipron comes out. And so the fact that the shortages are ending, there's just no way that much has changed between then and now that the supplies are actually resolved. So I'm thinking that what's happening here is it's just a temporary total availability of all the doses, and that eventually within the next couple months you'll see another dose hit the shortage list, and it'll all be sort of status quo. That is what I'm thinking is the most likely scenario. But hopefully the ideal scenario is that they're releasing single dose vials and everybody who has access can get the branded medications, right? That's ideal. I think, is that everybody would be able to be on the branded medications, but the compounds are offering great accessibility, increased accessibility right now. People also mentioned 503As, like, well, you've always been able to do 503A pharmacies by just mixing a combination of Tirzepatide and maybe B12 or B6. The only thing I would say to that is, yeah, but there has to be a medical need to precipitate that, right? So 503A pharmacies have been able to sort of get around patents, but that's by mixing one drug with another to make a compound, right? Or many times it's the brand name medication you're allergic to, a preservative that they use, or a dye that they use, or maybe you can't tolerate the doses that they offer, so you need a different dose. Those are the reasons that 503As can manufacture or provide non-brand medication to patients. That's always been the case, but again, there needs to be a medical need to precipitate it. So if the 503B pharmacies that are doing these in mass lose their ability to skirt the patents because the shortage ends, it's true to say that 503As will continue to be able to exist. They just will not be able to meet the demand like they are able to now. So there will be major issues with being able to even find the compound medication. That's if you have a prescription, a medical need to sort of precipitate that compounded medication. So it is a real mess right now. Of course, we're going to continue to follow it, but I wanted to give you an update today. We're going to decide to mow right next door and be super loud right now. So yeah, Chase says the medication isn't in stock and had to travel 3 to 4 hours to get 10 and 15 milligram, 10 or 15 milligram. That is the story, right? That is the story that I'm hearing across TikTok, across YouTube, across Facebook. There are many people who can find the medication right now, and that's great for them. But on the flip side, there are obviously many people who can't. I know with my own pharmacy that I had been using, I called, they said they didn't even have a date when they would get 15 milligrams of MOUNJARO in. So to me, that's a distributor level thing. That's the distributor not being able to say when they can get the medication. And this was just a couple of days ago. So as Clark just said, we want to make sure that we're reporting our shortages to the FDA. I will link that in the description. Of course, the row tracker tool, there is a reporting element when you put your shortage into the row tracker. There is a report that goes back to the FDA on that as well. So make sure that you're reporting your shortages, because we want the FDA to know what the situation is on the ground from the patient perspective. That's a very important, I think, piece to this, and as far as advocacy goes. Make sure that you like this video before you go and send it somewhere. Save it somewhere and send it somewhere to somebody else who can find this helpful too, because that is the best form of advocacy that you can do. Report your shortages and share the videos that are going to get the information to the people that need it. So every time you do that, every time you hit the thumbs up, every time you share this into a Reddit forum or a Facebook group, it's a form of advocacy, and you are doing your part to make sure that we maintain the highest level of access as we can, that we're leveraging the power of our community, which was acknowledged by Dave Ricks, CEO of Eli Lilly, in the Fortune magazine article today. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for being the best part of what we do at On the Pen. Couldn't, wouldn't, shouldn't do without you. We'll catch you again, but thank you for being here, and we will